Ooh, buckle up. This is gonna be a long one. So, this video is a pretty special one, and one that I've wanted to do for a long time. Most people know that I have dreamed of playing Christine in Phantom since I was 14 years old. Obviously, this story, not just the musical, means everything to me. I wouldn't have created this channel if it didn't. And because it has been my dream, I have been doing very in-depth character research on Christine Daaé for the last 13 years. So today, I'm going to delve into this much more complex character than I think most people give her credit for. Keep in mind, this is just my interpretation of Christine, based on the knowledge that I've gained through the original novel and Weber's musical and just personal experience. This is how I would personally choose to portray her. Everyone does it differently, and that's just theater. So for starters, Christine is a very dynamic character. That means that she is a character who evolves throughout the plot. We see her at the beginning, and there is one very big factor impacting her character. She has lost her father. Now, I have not lost either of my parents, thank God, so I can't even begin to process what that would actually be like and do to a person. But I do know what it's like to lose someone who was very much like a parent to me. And I know what that did to me. And one of the biggest and most helpful methods in developing your character is drawing from personal experience. So if you have an experience that's even just a nugget of what your character might be feeling, use that. So Christine, as we all know, was very close with her father, and therefore his death was absolutely devastating to her. And that one fact is going to be the underlying cause for so many of her emotions and decisions throughout the story. The biggest being this. In our darkest hours, it's extremely common for us to latch on to one particular thing, be it something tangible or an idea or passion, as a coping mechanism to deal with the pain. Phantom was mine, in a time when I was very much alone. Christine's was the angel of music. And in our grief, if this particular thing is more of an idealistic, non-tangible one, such as Christine's hope that her father would send the angel to her, we can get so set in our minds about it being one certain way, one ideal image in our head tailored to our own specifications because it is what is the most comforting. The human mind is a very powerful thing. And if that ideal image gets challenged by reality, the result is often not good. And it can leave us in utter devastation. Here's why this factor is important in Christine's character. Many people immediately go the route that Christine rejected Erik purely because of his face, or also because he does some, let's be honest, shady things over the course of the story. But I think there is so much more to it than that. Christine is not that two-dimensional. In the novel, Erik teaches Christine for 3 months. In the musical, it's 3 years. And this entire time, she is 100% invested in the idea that this man is the angel of music, that her father did send him like he promised, and boom, end of story, no one is going to tell her otherwise. Even though Erik frequently says things to her that would not necessarily be something an angel would say, and there are moments where she probably should have seen through it all, in that far corner of her mind, she doesn't care. She is set on this. She rejects the idea that this voice is anything other than the angel of music, because that is what is helping her deal with her grief. She's not just some naive diz. She is in pain. And this set image that she has in her mind of who and what the angel of music is that has been keeping her together suddenly gets torn apart. You can see this more clearly in the novel based on the dialogue between them. And that's why I encourage everyone to read the novel. A musical or play doesn't really have the luxury of going into fine detail about an experience like that because they've got a 2-hour max runtime they're trying to stick to and have to have a smooth transition into the next song. But in the novel, he takes her through the mirror, and upon doing so, Christine comes face to face with this person that is supposed to be her angel of music. She was not thinking of him in some tangible human form. That's why throughout the beginning of the novel, she refers to him simply as the voice. So here stands this guy, cloaked in black, in a mask no less, saying, "I am the voice." Her mind is already blown. This is not how she was picturing her angel, and that alone is very important in the psychology of Christine. Then he proceeds to tell her that he's not an angel at all. That he's just some dude that's been behind her wall all these months or years or whatever, pretending to be. Can you imagine what that would be like? To be disillusioned like that hardcore. Disillusionment is a bitch. Trust me, I know. There's also the fact that Christine is not worldly and doesn't really have the emotional maturity to handle something that devastating. So it's even worse for her. And it doesn't stop there. All in the same night, she gets an even bigger mind f***. She gets taken down to the bowels of the opera house to an underground abode that she didn't even know existed, realizing that this dude lives down there. I mean, you too would be like, wait, what? Because she's also finding out that this man is the Phantom of the Opera, who everyone always believed was an actual ghost. But we're still not done f***ing Christine's whole world. This man that has been pretending to be the angel of music is in love with her. I mean, it blows my mind enough to hear someone has a little crush on me, so imagine being in that situation. He's sitting there pouring his soul out to her when she's already like, my whole life is a lie. And we haven't even gotten to the factor of his appearance yet. We all tend to wonder why Christine decided to randomly rip off his mask, even though in the novel, at least, he quite clearly tells her not to. But you've got to think here. After everything she's been through, having no idea who this person is that has been claiming to be someone else all this time, she's desperate. She's angry. She wants to know who the hell this guy is. And she, of course, is not expecting what is going to be under that mask. I mean, would you? Would that be your first thought? Even though she is now coming to terms with the fact that this guy is the Phantom, I don't think she'd had enough time to put two and two together and realize, oh yeah, the Phantom is supposed to be crazy scary looking. And even if you went the other route of just morbid curiosity taking over, or being so angry at the situation that she just kind of demanded to know what he looked like, it's still going to be a shock. So not only is this guy, A, not the angel of music, B, a mortal dude living underground, C, the Phantom of the Opera, D, in love with her and asks her to marry him, he also looks like a walking corpse. Love you, Erik. I love your face. I mean, this girl has had one hell of a night. Plus, she just had her debut as a lead in an opera only hours before, after which she fainted. As much as I hate to say it, I think we need to cut her some slack. And this is all just her initial meeting with Erik. More shit happens. She is, of course, exposed to his temper and black depression after taking off his mask. But then, after he lets her return to the world above, she gets to deal with the fact that this dude is strangling people. Now, in the novel, it's never really made clear whether or not Erik actually killed Joseph Bouquet. In the musical, it was obviously him, but in the novel, Bouquet was found hanging between a couple of set pieces and his body was mysteriously found moved, so everyone just assumed it was Erik. Susan Kay's novel goes a cool route in this, where it was not Erik's fault, but rather that Joseph Bouquet was getting a little too curious about the fifth cellar and accidentally wound up in the torture chamber. Erik then moved the body and let everyone blame it on him so that people would fear and respect him more. Anyway, regardless of if you go novel or musical, Christine finds out that Erik has killed people at some point in his life. Because in the novel, she finds out about his past building torture chambers in Persia. This is a point where a lot of people say, well, obviously she's just terrified of him because he's nuts and ugly. I don't like saying either of those things about him, and I'll tell you why in another video. So they choose to play Christine very flatly and just kind of make her the damsel in distress. No. There is a whole other dimension to her relationship with Erik that we simply cannot gloss over. First of all, she does pity him in the fact that he has had a horrible life, stemming from the way he looks. But even though she is very confused and dealing with a lot of psychological trauma, she is also enormously enchanted by him in a way. And that is because Erik is not the cold-blooded psychopathic killer that has no redeeming qualities. I have an entire video planned dedicated to the analysis of Erik as well, which will help explain. Erik is a whole other level of human being. It's not just his genius and his skills that make him fascinating, but just his very nature. He's described as every move he makes being this graceful, elegant, sensual experience, almost feline in nature, and it just calls to the soul, especially Christine's. Some people don't like that the musical portrays Erik as sexy or whatever, but it's actually a vital part of the story. He's not supposed to be hot, sexy, like Gerard Butler or whatever, but more of having an elegance that commands you in a very specific way. And this causes more feelings to arise in Christine that she was not prepared for. Christine is quite innocent, despite her pain, which I thoroughly understand. I couldn't even say the word sex out loud until after I had children. My friends have stories. And Erik is causing feelings to arise in her that she is likely feeling for the first time. And I think it was freaking her the f*** out. Because here's this guy that is extremely complicated, that she knows has a very dark past, and yet she still finds herself extremely drawn to him. All social norms tell her that she should be running for the hills and should not be attracted to him in any way. And yet, she still can't manage to fully detach herself from him. He has a hold on her that is probably terrifying and confusing as hell. One of the other reasons I think she can't bring herself to completely detach from him is because she knows deep down that he was there for her all of that time as the angel of music and cares for her greatly. Even though it was under false pretenses, he got her through the blackest time in her life. And despite how badly Erik wanted her, he never laid a finger on her, and even told her that he would not tell her he loved her unless she permitted it. And that's something that's pretty hard not to respect. I truly think that had Raoul not been involved to complicate things more, Christine would have eventually come to terms with the situation and allowed herself to explore these feelings more, and probably would have ended up staying with Erik. But here's how I think Raoul complicated the situation, and not in the way most people think. We know that Christine met Raoul during adolescence, while her father was still alive. This means that she met him at a time in her life when the world was pretty much sunshine and rainbows. So when Raoul comes back into her life, she is, first of all, filled with all of these wonderful memories, which include her father being alive. Things were much less complicated back then. Raoul represents everything she knew before her world was turned upside down by Erik. He represents innocence and safety, as in her mind is safe from these realities and harsh truths that Erik has brought into her life. When she's with Raoul, she can safely live in the past instead of facing the truth and growing up. And when Raoul tells her he loves her and wants to marry her, obviously, to a girl that tormented by this one big giant mind that she's been presented with, that is going to be a very attractive option. He had the power to lift this decision and difficult emotions from her hands. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't actually love Raoul. Not by any means am I trying to say that. But it was a much less adult and mature love than what she felt for Erik. Because I do believe that she did love Erik. I truly do believe that deep down she did, and it was simply a type of love that she, first of all, did not understand, and second of all, was too overwhelmed to see. She was going through so much over the course of this story that making decisions or understanding complex feelings was really just not an option. I love the twisted every way sequence in the musical because we really get to see the extent of Christine's inner torment and just how overwhelmed and confused she really is. And if you look at Love Never Dies, this probably being the only plausible part of that whole story, it was not until Christine was removed from the situation and was able to take a step back and view everything while not under immense pressure that she was able to finally understand that she did love him. I came to this conclusion not because I'm some Erik and Christine shipper, but because it has happened to me. And like Christine, I realized it a little too late. Now, backing up a bit, I want to address a scene that doesn't exist in the novel, but of course does in the musical, which leaves a lot of room for interpretation, and that is, of course, the point of no return. And I am mainly speaking of when she unmasks him. A lot of people seem to choose to do this basically out of anger, like she's mad that he deceived her. It's not because she wants the police to know it's him and kill him, because she already exposed who he was by taking off his hood. Taking off the mask was not necessary, and is therefore highly unmotivated and doesn't make a lot of sense, unless you make one of two choices. She's doing it out of anger, or the way I would choose to play it, it's a last-ditch attempt to save his life. I mean, despite everything that's happened, when a man is proposing to you on stage, begging for your love in front of God and everyone else, how can your heart not hurt for that person? In my mind, Christine knew that Erik had about 100 rifles pointed at him and was either going to die or they were going to take him alive, where he would have to relive the horrors of his past all over again. But if she yanked off his mask, she knew he would get out of there as quickly as possible. She probably didn't expect him to take her with him, but... Anyway, I'm going back to my point where I was talking about the point where Christine realizes her feelings for Erik. Something I want to mention is that I think there is a way to show Christine realizing that she does love him within the actual musical and not waiting until Love Never Dies. And that is through the kiss. This is my big secret acting choice if I were ever to play the role. And now keep in mind, this is my choice and not necessarily what Andrew intended. So the whole final Lair scene is obviously high stress for everyone involved. This is a point where Christine's emotions are just on one enormous roller coaster and can change in an instant. She's going from scared to angry to distressingly sad, back and forth, and you can just hear that in her lyrics. We finally get to her big moment where she knows that if she chooses to stay with Erik, Raoul will be set free. Just based on the lyrics, pitiful creature of darkness, what kind of life have you known? God, give me courage to show you you are not alone. We can tell that she knows Erik is only like this because of this god-awful, traumatic life that he's been dealt. And she is therefore both highly sympathetic for him, but also knows that if she were to kiss him, it would de-escalate the situation, take him out of this manic state, and he would release Raoul. I don't think she expected him to let her go at all, but she knew that it would keep him from killing Raoul. So she kisses him, I think originally for the sole purpose of calming him down, but I think something happened during that kiss that she didn't expect, because you see her kiss him again. I think that during the first kiss, she felt that spark and realized, holy shit, I feel way more for him than I thought I did. And then she breaks away and takes a second to process it, and for the first time is basically like, oh my God, I think I'm okay with these feelings. And so the second time she kisses him is like the real deal kiss, where she's actually wanting to and it's out of love rather than a tactical choice. There would definitely be a lot of shock and awe on my face if it were me. And I think, honestly, she didn't really want to leave. I think this was a turning point for Christine where she was ready to accept these feelings that she had and realized that she genuinely did love him. It was a turning point in maturity for her, basically. But then, of course, Erik is just overwhelmed by this and realizes that he loves her so much that he can't force this life on her. And that even if she did love him, he knew her life would never be normal with him as a husband, and he just wanted her to have a life that was, filled with no more strife. So he tells her to go. And even though Christine has made this revelation that she is okay with exploring these feelings more and loves him, the situation is once again just so overwhelming that she wasn't quite in the right mental state to fight this decision that Erik had made for her. The whole coming back to give him the ring moment is, I think, a great place to showcase this. And I feel like Sierra Boggess really revolutionized that moment that most people make so heartless. Her choices in the final Lair appear so similar to the ones that I've always planned to make that it was such a blessing to have her be a Christine that I could watch again and again in good quality. I don't know if I'll really get a chance to talk to her one-on-one a whole lot during the intensive, but at some point in my life, I would really love to sit down and discuss this with her and ask if she had the same mentality that I do. Another Christine that I obviously felt brought a whole new layer to Christine was Anna O'Byrne. Because when I talk about Christine's father's death being the underlying cause for so many things in the story, she gives me this complete impression of that throughout the entire show. When a lot of Christines I see only give me that vibe during Wishing Her Somehow Here Again. And that's easy because it's in the lyrics. So once again, it being so nice to have that representation and feel like I'm on the right track. She's someone I actually can talk with it about, and so I fully intend to. I could honestly go on for days about Christine and her mentality and motivations, but this video is long enough as it is, so if you have any further questions for me about my thoughts on certain things, feel free to message me on my Facebook page. I love you guys, and I hope that this has helped anyone who was wanting to understand Christine a little more find some direction. Again, this is all strictly my interpretation, taken from what I've just learned of the story over the years and personal experience. So if you disagree, that's fine. But this is the analysis that I have put together and has always worked for me. Hopefully one day I'll get to put it all to use. Hit that subscribe button and remember to stay fantastic with a PH and keep your hand at the level of your eyes.